Live everywhere.
Daily Co's Radio on netrootsradio.com presents
David Waldman. Kagro in the Morning Show. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Tuesday, April 11th, 17? Is that what we're going on now? We are ready for another morning show, more or less. Anyway, it's our first time back at the microphone in a couple of days. I left you with a couple of pre-recorded shows. Anything happened while I was gone? It seems something did. One, we bombed Syria, as it turns out. And I don't even know exactly what else might have happened. Oh, a guy got tackled and dragged off of an airplane. Everybody's talking about that one. Of course, I don't know if they're going to add anything to that one. Joined the Twitter discussion about that, as we all did, I think, over the weekend. I really don't know what to make of that one. And I guess it's something we really ought to look at. And I imagine we'll probably see some legislation introduced by month's end to try and curtail this. But apparently the airline claim, and some defenders of the airline too, it's very weird. I mean, I think legally speaking, this is a weird situation. I'm pretty sure that probably somewhere in the fine print of the agreement that you are presumed to have accepted when you buy airline tickets is that the airliners themselves are private property and they have the right to revoke your ticket for any kind of reason, and if you don't comply, you could be ejected. But of course, I don't think anybody has much doubt left that, gee whiz, that seems to have been handled inappropriately. I don't know. It obviously was. I mean, I don't say why I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I can't believe we have this sort of thing going on, and we have to watch it, and people are like, oh yeah, you know, the airlines were well within their rights. And I think all the dragging out of the guy was handled by local police, and it was Chicago, I understand, so I guess people aren't particularly surprised. I don't think I need to tell you the story. I'll just acknowledge that I've seen it. It's rather amazing and is going to need some straightening out, not to mention the fact that United Airlines, of course, stepped in it deeper and deeper every single minute, and I don't know what else to tell you. I am distracted also this morning. I see that Brad Jaffe catches all the great stuff in the mornings on Twitter, has, I guess, a quote attributed to Eric Trump. Was he on, I don't know whether NBC News interviewed him. I guess I'll click through the link and we'll find out what it is. But Eric, back in the news, saying, this is a great headline. Eric Trump says Syria strike was swayed by heartbroken Ivanka. So I guess Ivanka talked him into, Donald Trump, into launching the Syria strike. I don't even know, I'm not sure where we're going to come to rest on the show on the Syria strike, except to say the one thing in which Donald Trump was right in all of this is that somebody has to be held to account for a chemical attack. That's true. I agree. And of course the idea that, the decision is up to me and I have all kinds of weapons, including nuclear weapons, and this is how I'm going to do it. I'm not certain I would agree with all of that and all of the things that were decided and how the attack was executed. I'm pretty certain I wouldn't. I also know that it doesn't really matter to me how the attack was executed at this moment, as much as the fact that I don't believe that Donald Trump should be in control of the decision-making process of how that attack is executed. But Eric Trump this morning saying, I guess the quote that jumped out at Brad Jaffe, if there was anything that the Syria strike did, it was to validate the fact that there is no Russia tie. I think they might be hoping to carry too much water with this strike. And a tremendous concession for the first or the second first son to make in a quote like, if the Syria strike, if this extraordinarily costly and deadly strike did anything, and I'm not sure it really did, but if it did, surely what it did do was bail my dad out of personal trouble, probably my dad out of hot water, screw the rest of you. Screw those of you who died. Screw those of you who risked your lives. Screw those of you who paid for those missiles, because we didn't. We don't pay taxes. That's an extraordinarily poor posture for the president's son to be taking, but no one has taught that kid to shut up yet. I can't believe that the president... Get control of your kids. Damn it. I mean, they're 30-something, but you really, honestly, have to do something. Let's see. This article here says that Trump's 33-year-old son, Eric, told the Daily Telegraph on Monday, why, I don't know, that the strike was influenced in part by Ivanka, and you have to believe that almost everything is, who said she was heartbroken and outraged by the chemical attack, as I think we all were. And it's funny, this, I guess, is meant to be... is this one of those stories where we're supposed to think, oh, Ivanka is the moderating influence here? Ivanka is the mother of 3 kids and she has an influence, Trump said. Now, Trump, does Eric have children? I don't know. Why doesn't he have influence? This is, by the way, here is why Eric was speaking with the Daily Telegraph. He was at the Trump Turnberry golf course in Ayrshire, Scotland. So on a golf vacation for which we are no doubt paying, I don't even know how much, but I don't think that is even mentioned in the story here. He would have traveled with Secret Service protection. He would have done so probably on one of the Trump private aircraft. And listeners to the show know what that means. The Secret Service had to pay for tickets on those planes. Okay. Trump, yes, where were we? He's at Scotland's golf course. I'm sure she said, this is him speculating what Ivanka said, because they don't talk. I'm sure she said, listen, this is horrible stuff. My father will act in times like that. Wow. Trump himself was deeply affected by the pictures of children being sprayed down by hoses to keep their skin from burning, according to his son. And that's the most human thing about it. I can't fault him for that. I won't seek to. But there's some cold decision-making that has to be made. Anyway, this was according to Eric. It was horrible. These guys are savages, and I'm glad he responded the way he responded. He described the president as a great thinker, practical, not impulsive. That's complete. I don't think Eric knows what that means. And he added, I'm proud that he took action, and believe me, he thinks things through. Asked about Russia's threats of military escalation following the strike, Eric Trump told the Telegraph his father would not be intimidated. There will be no one harder. He has got more backbone than anybody. Now, he is not a guy who gets intimidated. I can tell you he is tough and he won't be pushed around. The cards will shake out the way they do, but he is tough. He wants you to know his dad can beat up your dad. And this guy is literally his dad. Russia is a key backer of the Syrian president Bashar al-Assad. And I guess I've been hearing that pronounced over the weekend with different emphases depending on who you're speaking to. And it sounded like the people who sounded like they knew what they were talking about were saying sort of Bashar al-Assad, which is kind of strange. It makes it sound like a salad. I don't know. Anyway, he's been battling rebels trying to unseat him for more than 6 years. Where were we here? Is this still Eric Trump talking here? He said Trump was deeply committed to building America's military strength, and he said he was a big believer in Ronald Reagan's philosophy of achieving peace through strength. Sure sounds like Eric. During the campaign, Trump and his team had pledged to rebuild a Washington-Moscow relationship that deteriorated since Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea. Yes, we know about that. FBI Director James Comey has testified that his agency is investigating whether members of Trump's campaign colluded with Russia to influence the 2016 election. Eric said his dad had only argued that the U.S. should be best friends with other superpowers and described allegations of improper links with Russia as ridiculous. If there's anything that the strike on Syria did, and there might not be, it was to validate the fact that there is no Russia tie. How? I don't know. No one ever heard of good cop, bad cop, so it's impossible to know. Now, he bombed Syria, therefore there's no Russia. Not sure how that's supposed to work, but okay. Not much else. Certainly nothing good for Eric Trump in this one. So why don't we all stop? Because we all love Eric Trump. It is time to progress with the show. Bill in Portland, Maine knows it. He says so. Daily Coast Radio is live now, as we have been for 10 minutes or so. Kagro X, that's me, David Waldman. Hi, everybody. Everyone listening to the show, I should probably introduce myself. It'll be me, and probably only me for the rest of the day. Greg Dworkin, of course, my usual morning companion, now on a 3-day-a-week schedule. Monday, yesterday, which we missed. Wednesday, which is tomorrow, which I haven't missed yet. and Thursday, which many people believe is the day following Wednesday. We're live, and I have one too many listeners. Okay, a little topical humor. And so I need a volunteer to tackle and remove. Yeah, how about that? It doesn't matter if you donated to the show. It doesn't matter if you went out and bought a computer so you can listen to the show. The contract says we can randomly pick one of you and beat you over the head and take you out of there. I don't know if I have anything to add to the United Airlines situation other than I am astonished, as you all are. And I don't know how else to interpret this, by the way, except by saying that if you buy a ticket on United Airlines, you are in a beating lottery because they overbook every flight that they can. And that's, I guess, where part of the root of the problem is. I don't think you're going to see anything change about their ability to overbook, although there might be some sort of discussion about how they can cap it at a certain number or something like that. I guess the worst part of all this was that they overbooked and decided that they needed space on the plane for United Airlines personnel. That's the part that hurts the most. I think that, and as far as the decision making goes, the part that hurts the most is where they punch you in the face and drag you off the plane, of course. But they decided they needed the seats for United Airline crew that needed to be in Louisville from Chicago to Louisville in order to work the following day and fly a plane. And that's important because that plane could be full of, it's a plane full of doctors going to help patients the next day. That was the man's story who was in the video, was that he was a doctor who had patients that he had to see in the morning, and he couldn't afford to miss the flight. That would be just, I don't know what kind of doctor he is, but presumably it would be bad for his patients. Surely there was someone else, but they can't go. I do understand that the airlines can't go through some kind of examination of everyone's background, like it's jury duty or something, and figure out who can afford to miss. They have to kind of do something at random. But I've never been on a flight where they let everybody board and then decided somebody has to get off. That seems like a pretty amazing thing to have to ask people. Plus your baggage is checked, and how do they even get that? There's a disaster in the making, and they don't offer enough money to make up for that. We all know, I think if you've ever flown on a flight, you probably know how the routine goes, where they say they're overbooked and they offer people a couple $100 and a hotel room for the night to get off the plane. And it's not typically worth doing, but occasionally if you have the ability to do it, you might get a nice partial payment for a nice flight sometime in the future, maybe a free ticket, something regional. But I don't understand why they did this for a crew that had to get to Louisville from Chicago. As I understand it, it's about a 4.5, 5 hour drive from Chicago to Louisville. And I understand that they might not want them to, or might not even be allowed for them to drive from one city to the next on their own because, of course, they're a flight crew and they need to be on rest and all of that stuff. I don't know whether that really entered into it or not. But they were offering people, $800 to get off the plane, and they got a bunch of volunteers, including the doctor's wife, who I guess didn't have patients to see in the morning. But he wouldn't go. And now, of course, the guy's going to sue them. And even if they win the suit, it's going to cost them far more than it would have cost them probably to bump the offer up and get somebody else's agreement, maybe. But what about, taking the $800 times 4 and, I don't know, put this crew in a limo and let them sleep if they want to and drive them to Louisville. Or, I don't know, maybe United Airlines has another plane somewhere or something, or a crew that maybe could be flown from Memphis, let's say, to Louisville, or I don't know, anywhere, Charlotte, North Carolina to Louisville. I'm not sure. Certainly they could have found somebody somewhere. But I guess if they got 3 of the 4 of them on there, you don't want to break up the crews. It is complicated, I'm sure. But the idea that they were kicking people off because they had made their own mistake about where their crews needed to be, or even if it wasn't a mistake, it just seems rather ridiculous. I think you know that. I don't think I need to tell you anything more about that one. Let's go to the news. Let's also pat ourselves on the back if we can. My back is extraordinarily sore still from carrying all that mulch around. I got strained pretty good. But just to be self-congratulatory for a minute, because I don't hear anybody else saying Okay, I'm listening. Congratulations. No, nobody. I guess I warned you about the Spanish connection in the U.S.-Russia, saga, election interference, hacking, money laundering, racketeering saga just in time. And I had a feeling that might be the case. Lots of connections to the Spain stuff coming out in the days since I recorded the thing back last week. This morning, ABC News has this piece. Let's see, any auto-playing video? We'll try and avoid that if we can. Or maybe we should just let that roll and you tell the story. Chuck Goudie, I'm guessing, Goudie for ABC 7 in Chicago, where I guess if I don't get this story done in time, they're going to come in here and beat the crap out of me and drag me off the air. And honestly, I think I would not object at this point. Personal note also, by the way, although I was off the air on Friday, off the air on Monday, and we'll be off the air again this Friday in preparation for Easter, but I do hope to record another brand new program for you. Then here comes the auto-playing video. I think I caught it in time. Despite all of that, I'm worried about possibly missing a day or two. Maybe you hear in the background, I've got at least one coughing child with whom I rode for a good 6+ hours in the car yesterday, so I'm a little uncomfortable even getting started today. Hopefully you can't hear anything, and hopefully you won't. Take enough vitamin C to try and avoid things here. And I don't know, whatever Greg says, tape $10 to the door, etc., to find out if I have the flu. I think it's $100 these days, inflation and everything. So anyway, let's see. I do have a ABC News story about this. Ukrainian oligarch Dmitry Firtash's extradition to Chicago is on hold. Did you even know that he was being extradited to Chicago? I can't remember which oligarch this is, but I know the name is familiar. And didn't we? It probably sounds kind of foolish because I think we might have called his name yesterday in our tape show. But remember, that was several days ago for me. Arliss Bunny, before I launch into this, Arliss Bunny has a comment. About United Airlines. I guess they could have flown them to either CVG or IND, Indianapolis. What's CVG? I don't know. I'm not up on my airport codes. By the time I look this up, you will likely have told me already, but just in case, I like to know what I'm talking about. CVG. That's not CVS, the drugstore. It's CVG, the regional airport. Really, you're not going to... Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky International Airport. I just typed in CVG into Google, and it says CVGairport.com. Thanks a lot. Oh, well, look, it's got a Twitter account, at CVG Airport. Anything? No, you're not going to tell me? Okay, scroll down some more. Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky International Airport in Boone County, Kentucky, where they have the greatest farms. Boone Farms, one of my favorites. Fabulous winery. It being Passover, wine is extraordinarily important. And Boone's Farm, kosher for Passover. Not really sure. Probably not. But its close companion, Mogan David, MD 2020. However, is that kosher for Passover? It's a kosher wine. I don't know if it's kosher for Passover. It should be kosher for nothing whatsoever, of course, but what can I tell you? It's out there, and people who want fortified wines, one of your finest choices. Do you prefer the Concord Grape, the Orange Jubilee, or the White Lightning formulation of MD 2020? I don't know if they still make all that stuff, but 30 years ago, boy, did a bunch of teenagers want to get a hold of that stuff and drink this horrible crap in college. Well, none that I know, of course. I heard it through the grapevine that people wanted this while I was at, Eagle Scouts in church. I'm not even, and I'm Jewish. I was just hanging out. I'm so holy, that's why I was there. So don't look at me. I wasn't drinking any of that stuff. Maybe Dmitry Firtash was. By the way, I do need to kind of look that up. Was he mentioned the other day in my collection of stories about? Was he in yesterday's? I mean, he must have been, right, because of the Spain angle. So duh. Like I said, I recorded that on Thursday, I believe, because I was out of here on Friday. So it's been a while. Well, here's what ABC 7 in Chicago has to say, thanks to Chuck Goudie. There has been a hitch in the extradition of a Ukrainian business tycoon to Chicago. Dmitry Firtash, who has been indicted in a Chicago racketeering case. I don't think that even came up in our discussion, but it wasn't. So if he was in our story that aired yesterday, he would have been the one hanging out with the gun chick too, right? All right. Firtash, who has been indicted in a Chicago racketeering case, has ties to both President Donald Trump and the Kremlin, as do we all. Let's see. According to justice officials in Austria, Firtash's extradition to Chicago is on hold because Firtash is facing a new organized crime charge in Spain. The Chicago case alleges more than $18 million in payoffs for the titanium contracts in India. Which ones? I don't know. There's a link. I guess we should read that and figure out what that one is all about. But, let me see. I just want to catch up on a couple of bits and pieces here. Let's see. The Chicago case alleges more than $18 million in payoffs. This is like poorly constructed here, just to say it doesn't say the. I'm sorry. The case alleges more than $18 million in payoffs for titanium contracts in India.
Wake up with Tanya and Terrell.
I knew the Chicago ABC 7 thing couldn't last forever. I obviously linked to one of their stories about the titanium contracts, and they had the auto-playing video over there. Okay. So, why did they want to get all this titanium out of India? The metal was eventually to end up in brand new 787 Dreamliner aircraft made by Chicago-based Boeing, considered a victim in the case. And poor Boeing. He is rich, this Dmitry Firtash guy is, and powerful enough in Ukraine to be known as an oligarch in a Vienna courtroom. However, he is known as a defendant fighting extradition to Chicago, where he has been under the weight of a federal indictment since 2013. We have these criminals roaming the streets, interfering in our elections. Unbelievable. It's really pretty crazy. Did I finish the thought, by the way, from Arliss Bunny? CVG or Indianapolis Airport? They could have had him. They could have flown them to either of those, and they would have driven an hour to get to Louisville from either of those two places, just to jump around a little bit. But I feel like there are probably people on the edge of their seat wondering if they will be bumped from this morning's show, and I wanted to get you the information before anybody kicks the crap out of you and drags you away. Back to Dmitry Firtash, who's been under federal indictment since 2013. On Tuesday, an Austrian appeals court ruled against Firtash and cleared the way for him to be sent to Chicago, subject to routine formal approval by Austria's justice minister. Then, just after the clock started ticking towards his trip to O'Hare, watch out for that, they might kick your butt, time stood still and remains standing still. It says remains so. With breathtaking speed, the Ukrainian oligarch was arrested while waiting for the elevator to leave court in Austria. How do you like that? Austrian police took him into custody on an outstanding warrant from Spain that accuses him of money laundering and engaging in organized crime. He denies all the charges in very organized fashion, I am sure. On Wednesday night, in fact, Eric Trump denies all the charges. If this proves anything, it proves there's no Russia connection for Donald Trump. On Wednesday night, Firtash attorney Dan K. Webb, a former U.S. attorney in Chicago, said that the businessman remained behind bars in Vienna, Austria. I was told earlier today that he is still in jail waiting for a bond hearing that will occur over the next day or so. His release came Thursday morning. I guess that's last week. The Land Court of Vienna, don't know how they organize their courts in Vienna, having considered Spain's extradition request, released Firtash without additional bond money. He had previously posted bail totaling more than $150 million. However, it appears Mr. Firtash will be staying in Austria until the competing extradition requests are worked out, as he was required to surrender his foreign passport. And you know how they love to obey the law there, those Ukrainian oligarchs. The arrest has complicated Firtash's extradition to Chicago. U.S. extradition approval by Austria's Justice Minister Wolfgang Brandstetter is now on ice. I could use a little ice myself. Brunstetter says he won't make a decision about the Chicago extradition until Austrian courts have dealt with the Spanish warrants. Okay. This is the latest legal pothole for Firtash, who has business ties with Paul Manafort, who managed President Trump's campaign last year. The men faced a federal civil racketeering suit alleging a New York hotel they planned to build was a facade for, guess the crime, money laundering. A U.S. federal judge dismissed that suit in 2014. So he's got a racketeering charge in Chicago about titanium contracts, but also coincidentally a racketeering charge in New York about a hotel, weirdly enough, that they wanted to build that was, weirdly enough, a facade for money laundering. Man, all this stuff is coincidental. Oh, and I love that it has to do with airlines too. Those Boeing planes were probably going to be built for United Airlines, and they were going to beat the crap out of, I don't know who, the Pope. And he's just come across my screen via Twitter, and drag him off the plane because of overbooking. And this gets in the way of all of that. And as you know, they have a legal right to do that. So it's a huge problem. Firtash's attorneys say he will be cleared of all charges in Chicago. That's what they like to think. And declined to comment on the newly executed Spanish arrest warrant. His U.S. legal team says it is disappointed in the extradition decision and is prepared to fight the charges in Chicago. Which, of course, after which, the whole thing will be, well, I don't know. I guess he doesn't have to be present to fight them in Chicago. A spokesman for the U.S. attorney here, the new one, or the current one, not the old one that's defending the other guy, Firtash. The U.S. attorney in Chicago expresses thanks to the governments of Austria, and I guess, curses to the government of Spain, for its close cooperation on law enforcement matters. But apparently, screw you, Spain. It's unsaid. But so they're being very diplomatic there in Chicago. Here's that story about the titanium contracts. I wonder if we'll learn anything about this one. Chuck Goody did this one too. So he's on either the oligarch beat, the Firtash beat, or the titanium beat. Let's see which one he's on. He says this is from February 21st of this year, a story that first read like James Bond is turning out more like Mission Impossible. The federal bribery case against Dmitry Firtash hasn't moved forward since the day he was arrested in Europe 2.5 years ago. He's really cooling his heels there. It seems as though Dmitry Firtash is Chicago's least wanted criminal suspect. 1 year and 1 day have passed since any legal papers have been filed here in Chicago. American officials claim to be working for the billionaire's extradition to Chicago, while the man known as an oligarch in his home nation of Ukraine is essentially in forced exile in Austria on $174 million bail. The accusations leveled against me in the recent public statement released by the U.S. Department of Justice are completely absurd and unfounded. I am sure that all of these false allegations will be dismissed, Firtash said. On videos from his company and Ukrainian television, Dmitry Firtash has denied doing anything wrong. In June 2013, Mr. Firtash and 5 others were charged in sealed indictments in Chicago with paying $18.5 million in bribes to Indian officials so they could mine titanium and then sell it to Boeing Corporation for use in building the 787 Dreamliner passenger jet. Firtash, the alleged leader of the scheme, faces up to 50 years in prison and confiscation of his huge personal wealth. He has been buttonholed in Austria since April 2014 when indictments were unsealed in Chicago and U.S. authorities began extradition proceedings. He contends the prosecution is politically motivated by U.S. interests in a democratic, non-Russian Ukraine. The Ukrainian industrial magnate is awaiting another court hearing in Vienna after first ruling in April 2015 determined that the U.S. extradition request was politically motivated and rejected. Firtash spokesman Daniel Kapp said, a date for the second hearing is to be determined. Armando is on the line here. I don't know how much he knows about the titanium contracts, but I suppose we could ask him. Oh, did I miss his call there? No, there he is. Armando, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, David.
What do you know about titanium contracts in India these days? Any idea? No? Okay.
I haven't done any titanium work in India.
Okay, so you claim.
Pakistan a couple times, but not India.
Okay, well, I'm just reading that one of the you never know. One of these, I guess one of the oligarchs who was probably mentioned in our we jumped out ahead and got a taped show yesterday, putting us on record with the Spanish connection with the U.S. Russian oligarchs and electoral interference stories. Apparently, there's a whole side saga going on in Spain, and now I find out in Austria as well. These oligarchs, I don't know, they love bribing
Michael
people.
Cohen has never been to Spain.
Oh, okay. Austria, India, any of those places?
No, I don't know. Remember,
Yes.
he wasn't in Budapest or someplace like that?
Yes,
and it turned out he has been. But
yeah, and as proof, he showed us the cover of a United States passport.
Right.
I wonder how he does
convinced
in court.
me.
Yeah, right. Here's the kind of document that someone, not necessarily me, might use to go to anywhere, Prague or otherwise. Okay, thank you. That's really great. You must, I imagine you somehow passed evidence.
I think it satisfied Eric Trump.
Yeah, it may have been. If it did anything, it proves that my dad is bigger than your dad and will beat him up.
Nepotism is a beautiful thing is also a quote from that article on Eric Trump.
I believe it.
For him, it absolutely is. Let's be honest.
No doubt about it. By the way, I was thinking over the weekend it would have been a great. We didn't have the opportunity to do this. Who knew that this was going to happen over the weekend? But it would have been a great opportunity. I would love to know what Neil Gorsuch's answer, assuming he would have given an answer. I'd love for him to have been asked to review the case of the guy getting knocked out and dragged off of the plane this weekend. I assume he would tell you, that's the way it works in America. It's private property, and the company can.
Not only could they throw him out, they could throw him in a freezing cold truck. And he'd have to sit there.
Right. They could do that. They could have waited until they were taken off and thrown him out the door if they wanted to.
Exactly. From the air without a parachute.
That's right. As long as the other employee gets the seat, then that's all that really matters. So I'm not really sure. I imagine that he would have ruled in favor of the company. And there were some really interesting figures out there on Twitter doing just that yesterday, insisting to anyone who could tolerate the conversation that this was a private property rights issue more than anything else. And that
guy? Yeah. That was funny.
He was pretty funny.
He's United's Baghdad Bob. It's unbelievable.
I had a good time. He didn't get the joke, I don't think, but he gave up on it pretty quickly. But I was, just every time he would say, "You don't understand, it's private property rights," I would say, "Sir, I need you to calm down."
No, and he would all caps it. It was funny.
I am calm, which is exactly what you want to say if you want to get pepper sprayed or punched in the face or shot. Yeah, tell the police you are calm, and they're the ones who need to calm down. Oh, boy.
I'm with you. I think the weirdest thing about that story is, why did they put all the passengers on? Didn't they know they needed those 4 seats?
You would think. They might have found out late, but at which case, sorry, it's late. Get another plane.
How late could it have been? You don't board the plane until 30 minutes before it's supposed to take off.
Right. I'm sure there's lots of last-minute logistics, but I think... Yeah, the
real
answer is...
Did they not have phones at United?
I guess not. They didn't have any planes, apparently, or seats, so they might be out of phones as well. I don't know. They really could have, I would have think, solved that in some other way. And I understand the instinct to go, your first instinct is put them on a plane, obviously. But you offer money. Everyone was astounded that they didn't just start offering more and more money. I think that's what they're supposed to do. But I think they want to limit that so that people don't get into the habit of waiting for the bidding game and, and say, I'll wait till they get to $1,000. But,
I get that. I still think that the unexplained is how they put everybody on the plane.
Yes. They usually do not do that.
It's because, it would have been a big brangle at the gate and the guy may have, gotten heated outside, but
absolutely,
if you've been in airports enough, you see that scene all the time. People yelling at people at the gate.
Yes, but it's a much different story, and you don't have to drag anybody anywhere, and there's no seat to hold on to. And if you want to hold on to your seat inside the terminal, great. You're not getting on the plane. By the way, here's a report. Joe Wiesenthal for one of the it's Bloomberg that he reports for says. He's retweeting Liling Tan, who says United stock is set to fall 2%, I guess at opening, and wipe $500 million off the airline's market cap. So, in other words, Joe says if they had offered someone $499 million to get off the flight, they would have come out ahead. So, good job.
At least in the short term.
Yes.
Let's see. It is down 3%.
Okay.
Down 2 points.
By United Airlines. I guess you're stuck in that sense. I know everybody wants to boycott United Airlines. Unfortunately, well, I guess going back to Jimmy Carter, that dream is dead. We've been consolidating carriers ever since that deregulation, and almost certainly wherever you live, your airport is almost certainly dominated by United Airlines, and in order for you to get anywhere, you will probably fly United no matter what, or one of their regional carriers, and you're stuck paying them money, and that's life. You
know, it's interesting. I think about how I make my choices. Yeah, price is important, but I fly JetBlue almost exclusively, mostly because I'm in their frequent flyer program, and I get a lot of perks with it. But you know, I think they do a pretty good job, and I think that's what United's problem will be here. Not so much like they have a captive audience for their markets, and of course, most people still price shop, but they make more money from, frankly, people like me who fly more often for business. And, you know, I think that's going to be a turnoff for them. They're going to, somehow the treatment given this customer is such that you're like, you know what? Yeah. Maybe I'll take the other guys.
Well, it could be, although they'll probably be sending out emails and letters to deal with the situation during the rest of the week.
Well, they would have been better off if they just stayed silent yesterday. That's CEO.
I mean, whoever was doing social media for them as well probably could have just stayed out of it. But if you can't fix it like customer service, like, oh, I'll help you find your bag, then there's really no point in tweeting about it. But they did do that and waste an awful lot of time with that. It turns out the people who are members of their frequent flyers club, or people who paid for extra cost tickets, the first class tickets, or I don't know whether it gets down to like extra legroom tickets. I don't think the $10 or $15 is going to help you, but it's not random. In other words, the people that they expel from the plane are from the cheap seats. If you paid more, you are far less, you're pretty much exempt, according to their policy, from being in the first round anyway of ejections. If they get to where they're ejecting you, that's just, well, now we need to fly 200 United Airlines employees to another city.
Well, it'll cost them more. As I had learned yesterday, that they have to pay you 4 times the cost of the ticket, up to a total of $1,350.
I see.
So the cheap seats will be cheaper to deal with.
That too. But they also don't want to inconvenience
they want the guy who pays more.
Right. And they don't want to inconvenience their regular customers. If you're an irregular customer, they hate your guts.
Exactly. They treat me right. So they screw the rest of you guys.
Right. First class. I say
for JetBlue doesn't have first class.
Okay.
But, so I'm egalitarian that way. But I do get to pick the flight that I want. This is one great perk for JetBlue is I always buy the cheapest flight of the day, because I would usually like a day or two before is when I know I'm going somewhere.
I see.
I buy the cheapest flight that day, and then I just switch it with one of the great perks they have is you can switch to any flight that day at no cost. So the $700 seat that I bought for $300 isn't. I still only pay $300.
All right.
So it's a great system, and I do recommend JetBlue, and they should sponsor Kagro in the morning.
Absolutely. And they'll let you schedule your meetings as well, which is great for busy executives.
Exactly.
If you need to, it's like, it's not that I object, guys. It's just the timing stinks.
Right. But I can't believe you've ignored the big story of the day.
Well, I've probably forgotten what it is.
Well,
it is.
It's in the New York Times.
Yeah, okay. I think I know. Yes, okay. Is it the Easter egg roll?
Well, yes.
All right.
The big test facing the Trump administration.
Seriously.
You think it's Russia? I mean, Putin had an incredible press conference this morning. He called on the UN to investigate the chemical weapons attack in Syria. He predicted there will be more chemical attacks in Damascus that will be used to blame Assad.
Oh.
And basically said, he's standing by his man, Assad.
Okay.
Tillerson had said, you got to pick the United States or Assad. And Putin picked Assad this morning.
Oh, well.
That could be a big story.
Yeah.
But no, it's the Easter egg roll.
Yes, I did see that, and related story, I guess Trump is just not, he's just not interested in the niceties of the office, which I'm sure is endearing to some of his hardest core supporters, but.
Yeah, he missed the Seder.
Yeah, it was in his own house, essentially.
He was there.
Yeah. He was back from Mar-a-Lago. Oh, he was done with Mar-a-Lago pretty quick. The Chinese president came and went in a day.
Well, he's not done. He's going back this week.
Right. Oh, no. I mean, in terms of, I meant rather than he was done with the Chinese president at Mar-a-Lago inside of a day. I think he was down there Thursday. Yeah. Chinese president, I think, was out of there Friday.
He was in the White House. Of course, from what the pictures, it looks like they held it in the executive office building, the Seder, not in the White House, which is also bad.
Yeah.
Of course, his son-in-law and daughter.
Were they there? I don't even know. Yeah, I didn't see them in the picture.
No, they're not there.
So that, yeah, right. There. We're like, please, are you kidding me? A Seder with these people? The riffraff in the old executive office building. So, okay, so he was there, he didn't go. They could have had it in the house, but they didn't. I'm sure he thinks everybody involved is a loser.
I think it'll be funny when instead of doing the pardon for the turkey, he says, nah, kill it.
Yeah, that could be true. Look, I'm a law and order guy. The guy got sentenced to death, the end.
There you go.
But apparently
there'll be no pardoning of any criminals this year.
Yes.
The turkey has to go.
Exactly. It's not my fault. I'm just executing the law here. So the problem with holidays extends to Easter. It's not just that he's anti-Semitic. He's anti-Easter as well. Except they'll go ahead with the Easter egg roll. This is I don't know how long the tradition has been going on. Many, many years. And I don't really understand it, Easter egg roll. But they've been doing it for longer than I've been alive. On the front, or the back lawn, the south lawn, is that? Or is it west? I don't know what direction.
Let me look at the story and I will tell you. I'll be using one of my free articles for the Easter egg roll.
Okay. In order to have a solid, traditional, regular Easter egg roll at the White House, you gotta make souvenir eggs, wooden eggs painted in the pastel colors of the season, and embossed in a way with the White House and a seal of some kind, and White House Easter egg roll 2017. And there's some logistics involved. So the story says President Trump received an urgent warning in February.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
Yeah, informing him of a crucial date that he was about to miss. FYI, manufacturing deadlines for the Easter eggs are near, said a Twitter post directed at Mr. Trump. That's how they tried to reach him, via Twitter. They sent it to him, to the First Lady. That's actually Melania Trump, not the president's daughter, Ivanka, who also received a Twitter message. Please reach out. This is the account of Wells Wood Turning. You can follow them at Wells Turning. Here it is. FLOTUS, Real Donald Trump, POTUS, Melania Trump, Ivanka Trump. FYI, manufacturing deadlines for the Easter eggs are near. Please reach out. And the message is, like I said, from the company that supplies the commemorative wooden eggs for the annual White House Easter egg roll. The 138-year-old celebration that has drawn 35,000 people to the South Lawn. All the questions are answered in one paragraph. In recent years, the staff of the company, based in Buckfield, Maine. Bill, you know about Buckfield? Buckfield, that's B-U-C-K, and the F comes later in field. Wondered whether the Trumps planned to continue distributing the wooden eggs as party favors. I thought golden eggs would have been the order of the day.
Exactly.
But or whether they were going to have a White House Easter egg roll at all. They probably should have opened it up for competition. They should have said styrofoam eggs are cheaper, whatever. By early March, the White House announced the roll was on, next Monday to be exact, and soon followed up with a rush order for the wooden eggs. By that time, the ovoid uncertainty had raised a question perhaps not as consequential as investigations into Russian interference in the presidential election, a legally dubious travel ban, and a collapsed healthcare bill, but no less a window into the inner workings of the Trump administration. Could this White House, plagued by slow hiring and lacking an on-site first lady, manage to pull off the largest, most elaborate, and most heavily scrutinized public event of the year? I didn't even realize it was that. But I guess it is, because it says so in the papers.
Well, I mean, I will say this about the Easter egg roll. We all know about it, right?
Yes, right.
And if you ever watched those Nick Cage National Treasure movies, if it does, in the second one, the Easter egg roll played a key point in the movie. That's how whatever his name was, the character, I can't remember the character's name.
Me neither.
How he snuck into the White House to find an important clue in the Resolute desk.
Yes, I remember that he was after the Resolute desk. That part.
And that's how he got into the White House,
roll,
the Easter egg roll. He got invited and snuck in.
Well, it's supposed to be a big deal, and it says the late start in planning by the Trump White House points to a smaller and less ambitious egg roll than in previous years, which, of course, he will insist is the hugest one ever, no matter what. There may be half as many guests, a fraction of the number of volunteers to manage the invasion of the South Lawn, and military bands in place of A-list entertainers like, this is, again, A-list, Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande. This is, I mean, for the Easter egg rollers, it probably is an A-list. Idina Menzel and Silento, who have performed for Easter egg rolls past.
I know the Biebs.
Yeah, I'm aware
and
of him.
Menzel was
and
the Wicked, I think,
Grande.
the star of Wicked, but the other two, I'm old. I don't know the other two.
All right. Well, I'm sure it would have been a thrill, but they're not going to be there. There's going to be a military band instead, and you know that's fun too for the kids. And I don't really know the point of it. I gather you actually roll the eggs, but to what end, I'm not certain. I'm familiar with Easter egg hunts, rolls, not as much, but
my favorite part of this story.
Yes.
And I don't know how it's in the story, but here it is. You go to the paragraph that begins, White House party catastrophes have been the stuff of presidential nightmares in the past.
Yeah.
During his first year in office, President Barack Obama drew harsh criticism for lax security procedures after a pair of aspiring reality show celebrities successfully crashed a state dinner honoring the Prime Minister of India. Remember those two?
I do.
Remember that couple?
It was the Salahis. Was there?
The Salahis.
Yes. Tariq, I think, Salahi, and Michelle Salahi, and I think they're divorced now, but they are like famous Northern Virginia grifters. They're constantly pulling one scam or another. I think they own. Like, they're very Trumpish too. I would have thought that they would be Trump supporters and might want to be on hand for something like this. But
like the Easter egg roll.
Yeah, or anything. They constantly, I don't know. We've read about him on the show before too. He, runs, something that purports to be sort of an official body of U.S. Polo. He owns
that
a
kind
winery.
of stuff. I remember those stories.
Yeah, they were a strange bunch. Prime Minister of India too. I wonder if he was trying to get titanium contracts.
What's funny is this is how they both sides the story.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Everybody screws up these things. Like, for instance, here, Barack Obama planned a regular event, and two idiots decided to show up. On the other hand, this guy hasn't done any planning whatsoever and doesn't know what to do. So, and one's the president, and the other is two party crashers. Same.
I just think it's hilarious. Look, I know nothing about the planning of this Easter egg roll. I don't know if it's hard. I don't know if it's easy. I just thought this is so hard. New York Times to write a story about it as a test for the Trump administration.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it is a big deal. They are supposed to put this on. Here's a comment here from Maureen who says that the White House Easter egg roll is attended by lottery, usually by military families. Obama's was a huge event. Trump version scaled down. No surprise there. The other thing that hasn't gotten mentioned so far, and it may be in the story here, but a couple of people have pointed this out.
Spicer was the buddy?
Yeah, Sean Spicer, when he worked for the Bush White House, was the bunny. That is, he put on the big furry bunny costume with the big head and everything.
Furry. How about that?
Right. So, I mean, he was not as aggressive as the bunny, as he is as press secretary. Who knew who was waiting to burst, looking to burst out from that bunny suit? I mean, it's creepy enough, that bunny suit, as it is. Imagine that he's seething with anger inside that suit. Although I imagine they're all
like the
seething
killer
with
rabbit
anger.
that Carter killed back in the day.
Honestly, I can't imagine anybody being in one of those suits and being happy, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, the Santa suits and the bunny suit's got to be worse than the Santa suit, but my God.
But at least
Spicy will be on a rampage.
So he's taking it out on everybody else. All right, well, it looks like the Easter egg roll is on, and I mean, they probably he'd have skipped it, but for them reminding him that it's for military families, and that was probably important for him. So he said, all right, military families, military band, I can get that done.
Will he be there?
I don't know. When did they say it was? Monday? He'll be in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, so
through
you get back
Sunday.
in time.
I don't know whether he'll be back in time or not. He may send Melania. You go home and take care of it. It's supposed to be a first lady thing, and that'll be telling too. Does he send Melania or does he send Ivanka? But yeah, he'll be back to Mar-a-Lago already. That's scheduled. That will be his, let's see, I believe he is up to 15 golf course trips in his 11 weeks. This will be the 16th, presuming he goes only once in the next
It is
week.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I like golf more than the next guy, but not. I mean, Trump plays golf every weekend.
And I don't care that he plays golf all by itself. It's not a big deal to me. It's just that all the criticism of Obama playing golf, and he, the least you can do is delete those tweets, man. It's kind of
At the least.
And
and of course the big thing is he's making sure that his golf courses are being mentioned every day, which is the real problem.
And probably getting paid as well. And I mean, it's just the self-promotion and the idea of that he's this rich and I'm not going to take a salary, but we're not paying him for the job allegedly, and we are paying for his vacations. That's really annoying. That should be. I mean, I feel like that should be reimbursed. And once again, the numbers were out that I think they've come to the conclusion for final numbers that the Obamas spent $97 million on travel for their entire 8 years. He's up in the 20s right now.
He's going to do it all in 1 year.
Yeah, so he's spent about a year's worth of travel money already in the 11 weeks. And, of course, I don't know for sure. I just see the numbers bandied about $97 million for the Obamas. And I'm not certain what that number does and doesn't include. I don't know whether that's personal travel, like when they went to Hawaii and Martha's Vineyard, or whether it includes diplomatic travel as well. But I'd be curious to know, because this $25-30 million that Trump has spent is all for loafing. All of it. He hasn't gone anywhere, hasn't gone to a state dinner, hasn't had one, hasn't gone on a diplomatic mission or anything. This is all just to bring him to his golf clubs and his restaurants. That's nuts.
They built the helipad at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, and that became a story this weekend too.
Which I don't understand, because he's always doing the motorcade from the airport in West Palm Beach to Mar-a-Lago. By the way,
they want to avoid that.
If you don't know, it's literally a 7-minute drive from the airport to his house.
Yes.
Mar-a-Lago.
Now, I heard a lot of complaints about that, and it clogs up traffic down there. And as a matter of fact, I saw some relatives who live in the area and who are not infrequent guests of other members at Mar-a-Lago, as it turns out. And it freezes the whole place. And there's, super wealthy people who love to get their way about everything, who are neighbors and who say, I can't get my limo from point A to point B. Yes. So now they're going to do the helipad thing. And, of course, they had to get a variance from the very snooty town in order to do it, but they were willing to do it for the president. but they said, also there's some corresponding Secret Service regulation there. Apparently, they built the helipad, and it had to be built to certain specifications because Marine One is a very big, very heavy helicopter. It's no joke.
Yeah.
So they built this thing, and then apparently the rule is that helipad is for the exclusive use of Marine One, and they can't have other stuff flying in and out. And that airspace is otherwise restricted, and the only thing that can fly in and out is Marine One. So they built the thing. Everybody's agreed on all that. Oh, yeah, sure. But, Donald Trump. So they complete the helipad, and nobody knows why or who arranged or what, but a big Trump-branded helicopter, one of his helicopters, flies in and lands while he's at Mar-a-Lago and just sits there, like on display for a while, and then flies away. And the White House denies that they asked it to come in. They deny that the president flew on it. The Secret Service went crazy because they're like, you're not only is this supposed to be restricted, but if you fly on an aircraft, it cannot be anything. Can't be anything but one of ours. Oh, don't worry about it. I didn't just go for a ride around Palm Beach in my Trump helicopter. It's not a big deal, but it's just another one of those things where, like, look, this is the rule. You want this helipad. None of your neighbors want a helipad here, but you want it.
You don't really need it. I actually, with your explanation, wasn't that convincing to me.
Oh, well,
I don't think the helipad is more convenient to the neighborhood.
It may not be necessarily.
Literally, the drive is 7 minutes. It could not be. I mean, I assume it's like 4 minutes, as fast as a motorcade can go when the traffic's cleared.
I guess that's probably true. I guess the other.
I can't draw you a map, but the road, Southern Boulevard, that goes to Mar-a-Lago, is right by the airport. He gets in. He can get off Air Force One, get in his car, and he'll be in Mar-a-Lago in 5 minutes.
Another explanation offered was it may very well be, and this one you just have to speculate. It could be true. He may have to get out of town faster than get in a motorcade and go to the airport. It might just be like, okay, there's a huge emergency here.
What, save 2 minutes?
No, take the helicopter and just boom out of here to some safe space.
He has taken the helicopter to events in Florida. I know that. That's true. He's flown.
But in an emergency evacuation situation
from the airport.
Yeah, I mean, in a situation where they would say, we're not even going to pick up Air Force One. We're bugging out of here. I can see that. I mean, I don't know what it would take. A nuclear strike on West Palm Beach. I don't know. In the movies, you can fly faster than a nuclear bomb.
But okay.
They say they want it. Okay, that's fine. Although that will only make things more expensive, of course. And he'll be doing that too. It's like making an entrance for him.
So wait. So now, here's my question. Marine One is in Florida, in Washington.
Yes.
Andrews or on the South Lawn or wherever the hell it is.
I don't know.
How do they get it down to Florida?
I'm not sure. I'm not certain of the logistics of that. They may, puddle jump it down and refuel it. They might put it on a C-130. I think they can stuff it inside of a big.
So now we're transporting the Marine One down to Florida, the C-130.
Well, I think we're also transporting the limo anyway. Although I don't know whether they can drive the limo into the cargo.
Yeah, I think the limo rides on Air Force One.
Yeah, maybe they. I don't know. We'll look it up. But it'll only make things worse. They may, and of course, there's more than one Marine One. I guess they can station one down there in Florida.
That's true.
If they need to. It's only Marine One if he gets on it. Otherwise, it's just some dumb helicopter.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, they probably have it in a hangar.
So get me a half a dozen, he says. Other interesting things that happened over the weekend. Besides,
I'm sorry to
that's all right. I mean, horrible things that happened over the weekend that we usually don't talk about, right? Terrorist attacks everywhere. Sweden, Egypt.
Something really did happen in
two places
for once.
Yeah, and we missed it all because Trump was at Mar-a-Lago, and he did in fact have the situation of terrible terrorist attacks around the world. Now watch this drive. Basically, he got his chance to do that one. And also, by the way, much in the news this weekend, I guess I would be remiss if I did not mention the NRA. Gun instructor who accidentally shot himself at NRA headquarters over the weekend. I got about 300 tweets about that. Everybody who ever saw me tweet a gun fail story wanted to share that one with me. And don't worry about it if you think, I shared and I was probably the 500th one. I enjoyed each one more than the next. I love seeing that everybody knows that I would be interested in that story. He was, like we said, he's a gun instructor. So I guess that just stands for the proposition that absolutely anybody can accidentally shoot themselves, even if they know all the rules and they've been trained in all the things that the NRA swears they got to have. So that was at the beginning of the weekend, bookend of the weekend, school shooting yesterday. A horrible situation, of course, a domestic violence situation that escalated. I guess a guy was the woman the teacher? I don't even know. She was teaching at the school. He decided he was going to go where she teaches, elementary school, special needs classroom, shoot himself, somehow also managed to shoot 2 kids in the classroom and killed one of them.
What an awful story.
I know. And out, the gun guys are out nonetheless saying, once again, we're back to, well, why don't we just let anybody who wants to carry in a school do that so that there would be 2 guns firing and accidentally hitting bystanding elementary school.
David, we have to repeal the Second Amendment.
Well, that won't happen.
I know.
This week. However.
Or any week, but my God.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even know that I don't come to the same conclusion about repeal of the Second Amendment, but maybe only because I think it's impossible. But
it is impossible. I get that.
But maybe I'm using that as a reason to chicken out from saying we really should do it. I don't know.
No. I mean, it's stupid to even talk about because we're not going to do it.
But it's clear that we're going to have another round of these debates, and a good portion of the country has not yet heard the gun fail message. There are still people out there. I'm not going to reach them all, obviously. There's still hundreds of people, obvious, on Twitter arguing, we should let concealed carrier or concealed permit holding teachers carry in class, oblivious, of course, of the stories of teachers who have done that and have accidentally shot themselves, dropped their guns, left their guns behind, what have you. They refuse to listen when you tell them those stories, or they say, what's that, 1 out of a million? And, how many teachers do you need shooting themselves in school by accident before you say this is maybe a dumb thing? I mean, how many of them are really carrying, too? And of the number who are really carrying, I guess it's probably not insignificant, the number who have accidentally shot themselves. Between that,
it's unbelievable.
And
just a little cleanup on Marine One. Arliss Bunny tells us the 3 Marine One platforms travel on a Super Guppy and fly together so that 2 operate as decoys.
Yes, I have seen the train of Marine Ones flying before. I live in the path from the White House to Camp David. So when they do that, they fly up. I haven't seen them take Marine One to Trump National Golf Course yet. They drive that too.
They didn't take it when Trump went with the Japanese Prime Minister to his course in Jupiter.
No.
He did not go on Marine One. He drove in the motorcade.
So they can fit 3 of those into one cargo
Super
plane.
Guppy, whatever that is.
Yeah, I think that's a giant, fat-looking, modified C-130, probably.
So when it goes up, so wait a second. So how does that work? You have one helipad. You're not having 3 Marine Ones there.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
So when he flies it, how's it working as a decoy?
It is not. I don't know. It could be a huge helicopter pit. I don't know. You only see one on the lawn at any given time. At the White House. So I don't know where the others are. I've never seen a shot of 3 of them taking off all at once. Maybe one goes up and then 2 join it so that en route, if you happen to be standing outside in your yard, like in my area, with a Stinger missile waiting for them to go to Camp David. With Donald Trump, you'll wait forever. He's not going to Camp David.
You don't know which one to shoot.
Right. So you got to have, there's no way you can get 3 Stinger missiles. No. Can't be done. You got to shoot them all down, and they all have electronic countermeasures. It's not very easy to shoot down a Marine One either. But
Right. Just for the record, we're kidding, Secret Service.
I'm
we're
not kidding about the electronic countermeasures. They do have that. Arla says, yes, they join up and then shuffle. And you can do that with helicopters. They go up and they do a 3-card Monte thing. And which one is the president in? You don't know. Yeah, okay.
It's the flip-flap guy on the street there with the find the cup, the ball under the cup.
Right.
Oh my God.
So that'll make you sick.
I have absolutely hijacked your very serious show and turned it into
I don't know. There's nothing.
A farce.
That's okay. It's a first day back from vacation. We can afford this. This is what if we just told everybody what a disaster the world was, they'd stop watching or listening. But
I could talk about something serious,
which
is North Korea.
Okay, that is
Donald Trump
serious.
Tweeted today.
Oh, yeah.
This is what he tweeted. It's about China and North Korea. It's an amazing tweet.
Okay.
He says, I explained to the president of China that a trade deal with the U.S. will be far better for them if they solve the North Korean problem.
Okay.
The president of the United States tweeted that.
He explained that to the Chinese president before
and then he told all of us about it.
Oh, okay.
So my reaction is, what do you mean? How are you going to make the trade deal better? Far better. Not just better, far better.
Well,
and what do you mean solve the North Korean problem?
I imagine that means take away their nuclear missiles or prevent them from, make them stop launching things anyway.
Okay.
I don't know how they verify the rest of it, but.
What if the president of China says, okay, I took care of it. Where's my deal?
Yeah, right. I mean, why not say it? Just like, okay, you gave money to veterans. Okay, I took care of North Korea.
Exactly. By the way, congratulations to David Farrell.
Oh, yes.
For winning the Pulitzer Prize. Yes.
Yeah, and that's what it was for, tracking all the donations. The big story of the Trump Foundation. Peggy Noonan also won one for I don't know what reason.
Wow.
And everybody was upset
God
about
knows
that,
why.
I don't know. I mean, that's for commentary, right?
Yeah, it was for commentary, but what particular commentary did Peggy Noonan
Surely there was
last year that anybody actually remembered or noticed?
I had a good time watching her drink her way through the campaign, I guess, or just knowing that it happened. I didn't read any of the articles.
That seemed to be mailed in. I mean, it's like, okay, we're going to get fair and old, but look, old people or old fogey types who don't actually do reporting anymore. Here's one for Peggy Noonan.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know what who the contestants for commentary was, and it tends to go to people we don't like anyway. So
other big news,
yes,
is our very own Jen Sorensen, cartoonist, a political cartoonist, finalist for a Pulitzer.
Oh, this is a big year for. Well, the last couple of years have been a big year for the cartoon vertical that our own Tom Tomorrow, as we know him in his professional name, put this together. Almost all of them have won major prizes in the last couple of years since he put all this together. Now, they would have won those prizes even if they weren't on Daily Kos. And it wasn't the fact that Daily Kos has them that made him win the prize, obviously. It's nice to see, you picked some really good cartoonists.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's proud. And if you know Jen Sorensen at all, she's just one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. I have had that pleasure. No one deserves it more.
That's great news as well. It was a good round of Pulitzers, and ProPublica shared in one as well. And
the left-wing blog ProPublica wins its fourth Pulitzer.
Right. Hello, Sean. He's still angry about that bunny suit, I guess. Okay, that is definitely good news. It merits a mention.
Let me circle back to North Korea.
Oh, yes. All right.
I gave you just the first tweet. Here's the second tweet on it. He says, North Korea is looking for trouble. If China decides to help, that would be great. If not, we will solve the problem without them! Exclamation point.
I see. That really was a good meeting.
USA. No exclamation point, USA.
Oh. USA, meh.
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll solve the problem without them! Exclamation point, but then no USA has no exclamation point.
Well,
I didn't get a harumph out of that guy.
Yeah. That's an unusual thing. It was an unusual construction of the tweet as well, as North Korea is looking for trouble and China if China is willing to help them look for trouble, help us
Good
stop
point.
the trouble. I don't know, but
Listen, here's the point about all this. This is the guy who is president of the United States.
Yeah.
This is what he does. He doesn't know a thing.
that might as
He's
well
got
have been tweeted by his
buffoons all
doctor.
around him. And we've got a serious issue with North Korea. Obviously Syria, Russia. He's the president of the United States. This is insane.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, it is pretty crazy. It's high level diplomacy going on here too. By the way, he has the president of China.
He's tweeting at Fox and Friends.
Yes.
Is what he's doing.
Right. He had the Chinese president here. I don't know what he says, if anything, to the Chinese president. But after he's gone, he's getting tough. I wouldn't be surprised if, in reality, the face-to-face discussions were very much like they have been with the Mexican president. And who else did he have dealings with where he just, I didn't bring up that one huge controversial thing, and I didn't really get tough with the people face-to-face. But after they leave, he's tough tweeting. And look what he's saying, too, by the way. The biggest problem for the U.S. and China to solve at the moment is North Korea. And the end result of a big summit is, well, I think China should help us. If they don't, we'll do it. Right? So why'd you have the meeting? What did you accomplish? That was what you thought before that. Then you showed them your fancy house, and now we're still at, well, I hope they do something. And if they don't, and I didn't get any agreement from them to do anything, well, then we'll take care of it ourselves, in which case we never needed them in the first place and shouldn't have had the meeting. I don't know. The whole thing is very stupid, and she should probably leave North Korea out of tweets entirely. And I don't know. There's nothing I fear more than the two crazy idiots on both ends of that tweet. One in North Korea and one here. At least with the rest of the world, people can say, I just need to ignore Trump. And I don't know if they can do that in North Korea.
He's the president of the United States. You can't ignore the president of the United States.
No, but you just say, he does what he does. It's insulting to us, but don't.
Yeah, and
don't
it was
launch
brought
anything.
home.
Yeah.
He fired 59 or 60 cruise missiles.
Yes.
He can do that. And guess what? He can also fire missiles that have nuclear weapons in them.
Yes. And it doesn't
We
take any
can't
longer.
ignore the president of the United States.
No,
Nobody can.
Obviously not. But, you can let his comments roll off your back if you
Can
need
you?
to. Well,
Can North
comments,
Korea,
yes.
for example?
No,
I mean, look,
they can't
he's
because
crazy,
they're crazy.
too, but
Well, right. That's my point. Is I think that most world leaders can say, I don't know whether this is for real. I don't know, but as long as nothing explodes, for the moment, we just say this is him venting, and nothing's going to happen. But I don't know that North Korea has or want to have that kind of restraint. It's very well. The whole thing was very troubling. The whole, and then of course now questions being raised about the efficacy of the launch of those missiles. Anyway,
well, efficacy for what? For proving there's no ties to Russia?
Eric's
is
happy
convinced.
with that. Yeah, right. And but then, well, the story was that they were hitting the airfield from which the attacks were launched, but then apparently the airfield was up and running again the next day anyway. Then stories about the Russians knew or were complicit in some way.
Trump tweeted out that you don't hit runways.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand why that tweet went. I don't know what he's doing anymore. Now I'm worried.
It's just my point.
Yeah, well, I was worried before, but I'm not certain what he thought he was tweeting there. I have a Politico story here, with the headline of which I'm sympathetic with. Trump vexed by Assad's motivation for chemical weapons attack. The president doesn't. Well, he's confused as to what the hell Assad was doing, and so am I. But then again, I've never been briefed on any of these things. The president may have been, and he is still confused. I am puzzled, like why Assad would have thought that a chemical strike on a civilian population would have been a good idea, even if they're in rebel-held territory. I mean, unless they're fighters secretly, and he may believe that they are, Unless, but the politics of Middle Eastern genocide have always been a little bit complicated. I mean, I guess if I try to rationalize it, I'm losing the point here. You have groups that say I want to wipe out the others.
Is it civilized and not is it a war? No. Is it a war crime? Yes. But I think too many of us try to pretend we understand the motives and psychology of the Middle East. And frankly, it's what leads you to think that hitting 59 cruise missiles at one smallish air base is a meaningful message on the use of chemical warfare. Mm-hmm. As was said, at the time by Spicer, he said yesterday he had to walk it back, and if they use barrel bombs, and barrel bombs, I've come to know, are basically just bombs filled with shrapnel that do maximum damage to when they explode to people as opposed to structures. And okay, well, what about that? And Spicer said, well, the president will respond. Well, Assad's been using barrel bombs every day for 3 years. So,
well, yeah, I guess the one explanation that's offered here is Assad has been fighting this war for years. His army is depleted and ill-equipped at this point, and it says here, I mean, this is the best explanation I've heard, chemical weapons were a response of cold-blooded convenience. Just I need a lot of people killed, and I haven't got the army to do it with. Let's drop chemical weapons. But I'm a little bit baffled by that. That certainly would be almost immediately seen as an international outrage and would provoke a response. And I mean, unless Assad really thought that Russia could talk Trump out of responding, which isn't beyond the possible with this guy. I don't know. So I'm a little bit puzzled as to how this came to be. And I'm certainly. It's been a weird weekend watching the reactions of people, and there's a lot of nuance that's getting missed on Twitter, certainly, by limiting us to 140 characters. But I guess just to return to that at the mention at the top of the show, I agree in the most abstract possible sense. Well, when an international actor uses chemical weapons, there must be some kind of stern punishment for it. Was this it? It certainly doesn't seem like it visited any serious punishment on anybody. It was also extraordinarily expensive and showy and not much accomplished by it. But also, as much as I would want to see somebody held to account for use of chemical weapons, I'm too fearful of... I certainly don't endorse having Donald Trump give the orders on it, because God only knows whether that will make it better or worse when he does it. So I'm a little torn, but it's also been a little disturbing to watch, especially in the 1 to 2 days following the launch of the attack, the immediate response among the punditry, among the mainstream media, and even among some congressional and high-ranking Democrats agreeing, backing the strikes. And then only in the last couple of days, the third and fourth days following the attacks, did anybody ever do any real critical thinking about it or take a look and say, wow, this didn't get anything done, and I'm not certain what it was supposed to do. And 59 cruise missiles on one airfield seems excessive, and for them to be up and running so quickly, I would have thought you could have torn up the whole runway with 59 cruise missiles. But I guess I'm wrong about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, I got distracted because somebody just wrote a hit piece about the poor guy on the United flight. It's causing quite an uproar.
What does he have? Granite countertops or something?
He apparently had some problem with his medical practice back 15 years ago or something.
Well, that's reason enough, and I'm sure the cops knew that when they took him off.
Well, they didn't, of course, and it's irrelevant and it's disgraceful to have written that story in this context. I mean, in some ways, I guess he's a public figure, but
are you looking at the Courier-Journal?
That's the one.
Piece. David Dow, who is the name of the doctor. The Elizabethtown doctor was yanked off an overbooked United Airlines flight Sunday, has had a troubled history in Kentucky. Dow, who went to medical school in Vietnam in the 1970s. I think everybody thought he was Chinese for some reason. He's Asian American. But, okay, so he's Vietnamese, in fact. Or, well, I don't know. He went to medical school in Vietnam. I don't know. So, I've jumped to my own conclusion. He went to medical school in Vietnam in the 70s before moving to the U.S., working as a pulmonologist when he was arrested in 2003 and eventually convicted of drug-related offenses after an undercover
well, drug-related
investigation.
offenses seems a bit...
I mean, is that prescription drugs, I would assume?
He was, you know, improperly, apparently. I don't know.
The documents allege
properly
that he was involved in fraudulent prescriptions for controlled substances and was sexually involved with a patient who used to work for his practice and assisted police in building a case against him. So, patient who worked there. So, I don't know which one you would call them first. And I don't know. Okay, Dow was convicted of multiple felony counts of obtaining drugs by fraud or deceit in November 2004, placed on 5-year supervised probation in January 2005, surrendered his medical license the next month. He was permitted to resume practice of medicine in 2015 under certain conditions. What if one of the conditions was you can't miss an appointment? So
exactly.
Could be it. Well, okay. I mean, in other words, he's no angel, is what this is supposed to be somehow. And I don't know. That does seem inappropriate and irrelevant. He's in the news. It's a piece of information that's worth having, but I doubt very much that the cops knew it. Doubt very much whether it had anything to do with his...
The reporter and the Courier-Journal are getting roasted.
Wow. Well, it's real. It's a fact. It's weird
that
it was brought up as opposition research here, but... no, I can't imagine it would be, but all right. Well, that's one of the weird nuances of the reporting world for them to decide that.
Or to have no judgment?
Yeah. Then we'll have a big argument about whether it had news value or not. And that's
all right, so now if I do a story on Morgan Watkins, the journalist, I don't know what she has in her past.
Right.
Is that relevant?
Yes, it is now.
It is now, right?
No, right,
okay.
yeah. Of course not, because other reasons.
Any plagiarism charges in her past?
Good question.
I don't know. I mean, we have to find out now. She should sit for an interview, and we can go through her entire history.
Yes, I see everybody, I think, quite understandably weighing in on that one and being super angry about it.
The guy hasn't spoken publicly, so it's not like we're checking his veracity or impeaching him in any way. This is just incredible.
Yes. It's amazing what we can get information about, and we don't have the president's tax returns. That one we can't get.
Yes. Yeah, to get back to other things. And it brings to mind for me anyway, Eric says that, the strikes clear the ties. You know what'll clear the ties and won't cost $90 million?
What?
Making copies of his tax returns. Maybe he'll spend $100 on copies.
That could be, but of course it may cost him plenty of other things too, like most of his deductions. But I'm sure the audit is almost over, and that's good. I don't know. That don't seem to be getting any of that. By the way, I think we would be in for a big letdown if we got his taxes, if we thought we were going to extract a lot of Russia information from that. Although it may be that it eventually leads to some other things. If people then do Farenthold-style research on every business that he claims he's deriving income from and actually find out who owns it and where those people are and what other things they own and how much money is moving between accounts that other business has. But I'm sure there's nothing on there. Page 5, Russia payoffs. No, look at that. He declared all of them.
Well, but there's, the reality is where you draw your income from is demonstrated in the schedules to your tax return.
Right.
You know,
I mean, there
you
will
have to
be
do
stuff
some
there.
digging because it'll have LLC this
Right.
and such that.
Yeah, so we shouldn't expect
But fair and
that
hold
they
show,
do it.
you
Yeah.
can do it.
Right. It takes a long time. As a matter of fact, speaking of other things that take a long time, I'll shift the topic once again to another thing that I haven't mentioned. The governor of Alabama is, as I understand it, this morning set to finally
I'm so mad about
resign.
that Louisville Courier story. I'm going to let you go because I'm
Okay.
going to curse
Sure.
on the
You
air.
go
and I
do
don't
that
want to do
and
that.
curse on Twitter, and we'll read it and censor it for you.
Okay. Listen,
All right.
I'll let you move on to that crazy Alabama governor
Unbelievable
story,
story
which is
there.
unbelievable
Yes.
as well.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Armando.
Thanks for
It's always
letting
fun to
me
catch up on these things with
hijack
you.
your show, and
Sure.
now I return it to you because my anger is boiling.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we could boil you over.
Well,
It's
that
worth-
stupid
it's worth
Louisville
doing.
Courier. Unbelievable. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay,
Have a
thanks,
good one.
Armando. You do the same. Alabama Governor Robert Bentley apparently ready to finally resign. This according to the Morning Digest over at Daily Kos, the Daily Kos Elections Morning Digest. They've been the ones following the story for the longest time here. And really incredible, I think, what people are willing to do to hold on to power. I said this yesterday, and I think I put power in scare quotes even yesterday when I said it, just because, I don't know, I mean, I'm sure I guess if I'm living in Alabama, I'd rather be the governor than not if I'm looking for power in Alabama, but how powerful is the governor of Alabama? He seems to be under the impression that, there's this, that it's a personal fiefdom there, that he can run his own way. I guess he feels like he enjoys a tremendous amount of power in Alabama. The stories I was reading yesterday, I mean, if you're not up to speed like me, I mean, I'm also not up to speed. Not if you're not up to speed the way I am, but quite the opposite. If you, like me, are not up to speed on what's going on down there, I mean, I guess at heart, it's your basic extramarital affair story, which could have ended very differently, of course, as it has for a number of people of both parties, but particularly people of the Republican Party. I guess you just say, well, I've made my peace with God about that one. Jesus forgives me for my sins, and I hope you will too, and Appalachian Trail and whatnot. Mark Sanford is still alive politically about this. But down in Alabama, the governor went the other route and decided that as governor, I could probably get away with using official resources to cover up and going to the lengths, including threatening people who would expose this secret with arrest or worse. The Morning Digest from yesterday laid it out pretty well. The headline reading, as impeachment looms, new report shows Robert Bentley is even worse than we thought. How so? Here's the story. Late on Friday afternoon, Jack Sharman, special counsel hired by Alabama's State House Judiciary Committee to oversee its probe of Republican Governor Robert Bentley, released his long-awaited report of the governor, and Bentley looks very doomed. And that was yesterday. By today, he has been arrested, booked, and has resigned, despite the fact that he was insisting he was going to dig in his heels and ride this out. What was he riding out? The report says that Bentley, whose 50-year marriage, congratulations on that, by the way, came to a shocking end in 2015, used state law enforcement officers to try and cover up an affair with a top aide, Rebecca Mason. It also says that Bentley told Spencer Collier, the then head of the Alabama law enforcement agency, to, quote, be prepared to arrest, unquote, be prepared to arrest people with recordings of an explicit conversation with Mason. And that's disturbing enough there, right? The idea of having a recorded explicit conversation between this poltergeist-looking guy and his girlfriend. Okay, the report depicts how Bentley tried to intimidate Heather Hanna, the chief of staff to the governor's now former wife, Diane Bentley, who would have been the first lady of Alabama, her chief of staff. He tries to intimidate her, the chief of staff. Hanna taught the then First Lady how to record phone conversations with her cell phone, and as in March of 2014, this is how long this took to unfold, Diane Bentley obtained an amorous message from the governor intended for Mason. In August of 2014, Bentley suspected that Collier had a copy of his call, and he told him to find out whether there were criminal statutes that applied to Hannah's suspected activities and to prepare to arrest Hannah if the recording was released. Hannah told investigators that Bentley then confronted her in a parking lot and told her to watch herself, with Bentley adding that as governor, people bow to his throne. This is how powerful he thinks governor of Alabama really is. In June of 2016, after Hannah testified to the Alabama Ethics Commission, she found scribbled onto her car window the messages, I guess, written into the dirt on her car window, "Bitch, die, and you will effing die." There's a lot of "die" written into her windows. A few days later, a rock was thrown through Hannah's kitchen window. Hannah believes both events were related to her testimony. According to the report, Bentley not only used state law enforcement officials to try and track down copies of this recording before it could be released, he twice ordered the head of his protection detail to break off his relationship with Mason for him. How do you like that? That's pretty sleazy. Both chambers of the state legislature dominated by Republicans, but few members of Bentley's party seemed to want him to stick around. On Thursday, the state Senate leader, Del Marsh, urged Bentley to resign. House Speaker Mac McCutcheon echoed that call a day later before Sharman's report was released. Sharman? Is it Sherman or Sharman? Sharman, yes, okay. If Bentley has any defenders, they've been very quiet. This morning's Morning Digest titled, "Alabama GOP Governor Robert Bentley Resigns Amid Worsening Scandal." That's their leadoff story once again. Bentley's long-running sex scandal finally came to an end on Monday when he resigned from office. Bentley, a Republican who was facing almost certain impeachment and conviction at the hand of the state's Republican-dominated legislature, reportedly made his move as part of a deal with prosecutors. Adding to the indignity, Bentley was also booked at the Montgomery County Jail on 2 misdemeanor charges related to using his campaign contributions for his own gain and failing to report contributions. Bentley's deal supposedly required him to resign and never again hold public office, as well as plead guilty to both misdemeanors. Bentley's departure puts Lieutenant Governor Kay Ivey, a fellow Republican, in the governor's office. She'll serve the rest of his term, which ends in early 2019. She may run in her own right next year, when Bentley otherwise would have been term limited out of office. Bentley's fall, though, may not just affect next year's gubernatorial race. It could also spell trouble for Senator Luther Strange. That would be U.S. Senator Luther Strange, whom Bentley recently appointed to the Senate to replace now U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. We have a lot of discussions in this long, sordid saga, they say, so strap in. We may well do that. Is they going to have that continuing discussion now? Yes. All right, excellent. Why not follow it? They start back in 2014 when Bentley won re-election with ease. Looked like he had little to worry about politically in this very red state. But in 2015, First Lady Diane Bentley shocked Alabama's political establishment when she filed for divorce after 50 years of marriage. Did she hold out for the 50-year pension and then she file? I don't know. Rumors immediately sprang up that the governor had been carrying on an affair with an influential staffer named Rebecca Mason. Soon after, 2 state Republican legislators asked Strange, who at the time was the state's attorney general, to investigate whether Bentley had used state resources to conceal his relationship with Mason. You get where this is going? The story soon faded from the headlines, but it clawed its way back with a vengeance in March of last year, when some very not safe for work audio recordings of Bentley and Mason were recorded by Diane Bentley and were leaked. That's just disturbing. The governor conceded that he was the man on the tape, but he denied anything physical had happened between him and Mason. I don't see how you avoid it, given the content of the tape, but okay. However, the man Bentley had just fired as the state's chief law enforcement officer, Spencer Collier, quickly turned up the heat. Collier claimed the governor had leased private planes to avoid having to list Mason's name on the passenger manifests, as he would have had to if he had used state planes, and alleged that Bentley asked him to lie in a separate, unrelated investigation. He wants lies all over the place. Soon thereafter, the Alabama Ethics Commission announced that it would investigate Bentley while Republican State Representative Ed Henry filed articles of impeachment. However, while Bentley had few allies in the legislature, especially after he passed a huge tax hike to close a budget deficit, impeachment proceedings were slow to get off the ground. Bentley also got some outside help in staving off his Judgment Day. Just before Election Day last November, Strange sent a letter to the state legislature asking it to halt its inquiry into Bentley's activities, quote, until I am able to report to you that the necessary related work of my office has been completed. Lawmakers did as Strange, who was, after all, the Attorney General of the state, asked, explaining in a responsive letter that of their own that the Attorney General was conducting a separate investigation of the governor, a characterization Strange didn't dispute. But after Donald Trump's unexpected victory and nomination of Sessions to serve as his Attorney General, Strange's calculations seemed to change since he coveted an appointment to Sessions' Senate seat, to which Bentley alone held the keys. Strange understood, though, that accepting an appointment from the guy he was investigating would look bad. So, in late December, he belatedly insisted that he never actually said he was investigating the governor and claimed he had only asked the legislature to suspend its impeachment proceedings because there were, quote, some common players involved, unquote, in another investigation. Well, Strange got his appointment to the Senate, and Bentley named prosecutor Steve Marshall to replace him. Marshall soon acknowledged that the state attorney general's office had been looking into Bentley all along, and Strange soon admitted that, yeah, he was investigating Bentley when, in a perfectly Trumpian display of ethics, he accepted that juicy Senate appointment from him. Bentley went ahead and scheduled the special election for the final 2 years of Sessions' term in November of 2018, and Strange will need to face the primary voters come June. A number of fellow Republicans have already complained about the circumstances of Strange's elevation to the Senate. And in a state that's seen more than its share of corruption in recent years, Strange could be vulnerable. But Bentley's problems remained much more immediate and dire. Last week, the Ethics Commission found that there was probable cause that Bentley had violated campaign finance and ethics laws by allegedly using state money, quote, to further his personal interest, unquote, and referred his case to the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office. Both of the state's top legislative leaders publicly called for the governor to resign, and all that was before Jack Sharman, the special counsel hired by the House Judiciary Committee to oversee its probe of Bentley, released his bombshell report on Friday. The report not only included page after page of Bentley and Mason's amorous texts to one another. Do I dare to even take a look at what they have in them? Are you interested? Let's see. The ones they printed, I guess, are just sort of more amorous than anything else, right? Let's see. I guess this would be Rebecca starting this one. Well, at least you get out even if not alone. Have fun. And he just answers, I love you, Rebecca. And then, what does this say? I love you, Diane? Well, these are text I don't even know what's going on here. I guess one of them is, the earlier one is a conversation that ends. You can see a screen capture here, and then the iPhone's texting window here. So I guess that's the end of that conversation. This is the beginning of another one. I love you, Diane, that he sends. Thanks for putting name in. Love you. Let's have fun. I don't even know what's going on here. This is very disturbing. Okay, well, I won't bother reading these things. I thought they might get down into it here, but yeah, I guess there's some other ones captured here, and I don't know if these are the NSFW ones or not, but the fact that they've got these things is pretty disturbing to begin with. Okay, so the report included page after page of these texts, including the revelation that the governor had once answered the door at his D.C. hotel in his boxers under the mistaken belief that Mason was on the other side. And honestly, maybe the boxers even then was a mistake. But okay, Collier also testified that Bentley had... Can you imagine this guy? He's very old. Or very old looking. I don't know how old he actually is. But he doesn't look like a young man. So the boxers, I imagine him with like the old-fashioned socks with garters and everything too. Collier also testified that Bentley had told him to be prepared to arrest people who possessed recordings of those explicit conversations with Mason. Heather Hanna, we heard this story, Chief of Staff to Diane Bentley, also testified that the governor had tried to intimidate her to keep the recording under wraps and sought to punish her for testifying. The report further said that Bentley had used state personnel to try and find the audio. Well, it got found all right. On Monday, the first day of the House Judiciary Committee's hearings, everything came to a head. Throughout the day, reports came that Bentley would resign before the week was out, but it was still a surprise when Bentley was booked first. However, Bentley resigned as part of his deal before the end of Monday, and Ivey became governor. Bentley's political life is over, but Ivey's 2018 fate is up in the air. A number of Republicans have been preparing to run for governor next year, but now that Ivey is the incumbent, it may be a while before things come into focus. Alabama elects governors and lieutenant governors separately, so voters may not punish Ivey for Bentley's sins. Ivey did alienate Republicans after presiding over the collapse of the state's prepaid affordable college tuition program during her tenure as state treasurer. Still, Alabama's second female governor is reportedly respected in the state capital, so power players may give her a chance. Bentley's resignation ends one of the most chaotic and messy chapters in Alabama politics, but for Ivey, Strange, and plenty of other politicians, the 2018 cycle is only just beginning. How exciting is that? What a fun story. Pretty sordid. It's amazing, once again, what people will do to try to hang on to power and the things that they do or allow themselves to try to do in wielding it. I can't believe, I don't know. It seems to me, I don't know. This is another one of those stories where Democrats bow their heads, resign, and take off early, and Republicans dig in, and sometimes they even survive. It's really rather amazing. Another important story, I don't know if you would say it's in the same neighborhood, but maybe, because, rumors being what they are. I have two reports, one from Mother Jones and one from Vanity Fair, so that'll tell you exactly how important it is. Big news for those of us who are interested in the various vertical integration plays that Trump is involved with, and those of us who are measuring his success as a businessman, therefore his fitness for political office, for those who believe that the two are correlated. Let's see. Vanity Fair's headline, Tumult reportedly rages as Trump models loses two big clients. And Mother Jones's piece is titled, Leaked Email, President Trump's Modeling Agency is Shutting Down. Oh. Everybody's disappointed in that, of course. He is getting on in years, of course, and he's much more in the public eye these days, and maybe he just can't get away with as much with his favorite models as he used to, but for whatever reason, it looks like they're shutting down. It looks like Vanity Fair is trying to blame this on the loss of two big clients. Who are these two big clients? Well, let's find out. Richard Lawson, writing for Vanity Fair. Let's see if this doesn't look to be a tremendous piece. We might be able to get through this. Amidst all the surprise, horror, panic, etc. of Donald Trump being elected the President of the United States, parenthetically it does say, isn't that still so strange to read? It's really strange to type. There was at least one reliable constant, a pole star that we could, if nothing else, depend on to be there, guiding us, showing us that the world still was possessed of order and some degree of harmony. I think I like this. That fixed and comforting thing was, of course, the continued existence of Trump Models, the modeling agency that the president started a while back for not at all creepy reasons. I think I'm gonna start hanging out with Richard Lawson. Richard, text me, dude. Let's talk. Okay. For not at all creepy reasons. It was the one thing we could trust. Despite everything, Trump Models would carry on. But now that's all been blown, reportedly, to hell. Following reports that the agency is collapsing, comes news from Page 6 that two high-profile clients are leaving the once steady agency. Mia Kang, a Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue model who is also a Muay Thai fighter, because these days everyone needs a thing, has reportedly left the agency for a competitor, a big loss for Trump Models. Kang, and not the alien from The Simpsons, is not especially famous yet, but she won a model search contest to be in Sports Illustrated and seems to have some heat behind her, so jumping the Trump ship is not a good sign. Also not a good sign is that another newly minted Sports Illustrated model, 60-year-old former quarterback Joe Montana, is that right? Also has left the agency. No, I'm just kidding. I guess that's not right then. It was actually 20-something model Danielle Harrington who left Trump models. Joe Montana is still a loyal client. And it says, Joe Montana is not a client of Trump models. It just seemed funny to make a Joe Montana joke when talking about Sports Illustrated because, sports and stuff. Isn't it weird that the swimsuit issue still exists? It's like opening a door and there's Don Draper just sitting there, still smoking away in 2017. It's a relic, but a profitable one. End parentheses. Harrington and Kang were both poached by the same agency, Women/360. Which probably means that the Women/360 offices will soon be getting some kind of stern visit from Stephen Miller wafting in through the air vents or something. It could be bad. But it's worse for Trump models, which both executives and clients are said to be fleeing. What's going on? Why would anyone want to decamp from Trump models right now when the man whose name the agency bears is doing so well? People love Donald Trump. They elected him president. Is the fashion industry really refusing to do business with Trump models? If so, that doesn't make any sense. I'm running a fashion show these days. I'm going to say, get me a Trump model, because wouldn't you want the best? And Donald Trump only works with the best. His number one modeling client, Steve Bannon, is proof of that. Of course, we wish all the Trump model employees who are leaving the company the best of luck. There is no ill will toward them, but they are contributing to the degradation of an important American institution, one that many in this country have depended on to be a source of sturdiness in these confusing times. The Trump models were something like a spiritual army, a Swiss guard protecting our most closely and deeply held faiths. But now they're disbanding, and what are we left with? Only this makeshift Les Mis barricade of moldering Trump stakes that we built, and the sweet oblivion brought on by too many pulls of delicious, stinging Trump wine. It's good, but not good enough. Come back, Trump models. Return to us and keep us safe, please. Obviously, a bit of tongue-in-cheek approach to the story, and it doesn't tell me exactly why things are collapsing, but the fact that they are is at least a source of some humor. Mother Jones, obviously, will very likely be taking a humorless approach to things. Let's take a look at that one. James West, I'm not giving you the benefit of the doubt just yet, James. Let's hear what you have to say. Leaked email, President Trump's modeling agency is shutting down. Business partners are told it's over for one of Trump's most prized businesses. And I guess that's really the big point of all this. Yet another business failure for the genius businessman. Maybe it never had any business purpose whatsoever. One of President Donald Trump's favorite businesses will go the way of Trump Steaks, Trump University, Trump Airlines, and Trump Magazine. His embattled New York modeling firm, Trump Model Management, has officially told its business associates around the world to prepare for its closure, according to an email obtained by Mother Jones. Arrest them. Over the weekend, Corinne Nicholas, president of Trump Models, informed industry colleagues of the pending closure of the 18-year-old agency, and that's Trump's favorite age, in which Trump owns an 85% stake, according to the most recent financial disclosure. The Trump Organization is choosing to exit the modeling industry, Nicholas wrote in the email. On the heels of the recent sale of the Miss Universe organization, the company is choosing to focus on their core business in the real estate, golf, and hospitality space. The Trump Organization sold the Miss Universe organization, which also runs the Miss USA beauty pageant, to the talent agency WME-IMG, that's WME-IMG, about 18 months ago, following a controversy over the then-candidate Trump's remarks about Mexican immigrants. Who knew? Mother Jones reported last week that the firm was on the brink of collapse, and the New York Post confirmed on Friday that Trump's agency was indeed shutting down. In her email, Nicholas did not provide a specific date on which operations will cease. Trump model employees had assured Mother Jones as recently as last Wednesday that it was operating as normal and the company was, of course, open for new business. Sure, of course. Why not lie about that, too? Trump Models, during its 18-year run, was an amazing success, which is why they're closing. And we are immensely proud of the opportunities that we have had, that we have provided to so many talented individuals, Nicholas wrote. What else is she going to say? Mother Jones reported before the election that Trump's modeling agency had a history of employing foreign models who said they violated immigration rules by working in the United States without work visas. That's the most relevant part of the story anyway, at least politically speaking. That investigation also detailed how Trump models forced its recruits to pay sky-high rent to live in crammed living quarters while levying a dizzying number of fees and expenses on its talent that left some models in deep debt to the agency. Since Trump's election, models and staff members have been fleeing his agency. Industry sources told Mother Jones last week that this was a direct result of Trump's divisive politics, which have made his brand toxic in the modeling world. Recent departures include modeling stars Katie Moore and Mia Kang and veterans Shirley Mallman and Maggie Rizzer. The rest of Trump models' talent must find new representation at other agencies. Shouldn't be too hard. Nicholas promised business partners she would, quote, be here to assist you through the process. I have my doubts about that, but I don't cry about it too much. Trump founded his modeling agency in 1999, augmenting his business brand with what would become one of the top modeling agencies in the country. Really? Since his election, ethics experts and others have focused on how Trump might use the presidency to benefit his businesses. At least in this case, the presidency appears to have had the opposite effect. Interesting, not groundbreaking, but once again, another one of those situations where a genius businessman turns out to be just another dope, I guess. This thing was never supposed to really be a profitable business, of course. It was supposed to get him and his friends dates, and now he can't do that anymore, so we don't need it, so close it. That's my theory on it. Let's see. Other interesting takes for the morning that deserve some consideration. Let's see if we can scroll around. Did we miss anything really big? Probably. At this point. We got the NRA story. And we did get this on record. Well, all right. I think in the closing minutes, perhaps we can throw one more story on the fire here. We'll have to start, we'll save some of the filibuster nuclear option fallout stories for tomorrow for discussion with Joan, tomorrow being Wednesday. And let's see, what can we add to the story lineup for today in the closing minutes? How about we grab this piece? Why not? This is a New York Times piece from end of last week. Would have been Friday, so we would have missed out on the chance to read it live. But just to bring us up to date on the actual Russian connection of the Russian connection story, CIA. New York Times reports, Eric Lichtblau writing here, CIA had evidence of Russian effort to help Trump earlier than believed. We missed out on the opportunity to discuss this one, and we won't have much discussion time either, but let's get it on record. The CIA told senior lawmakers in classified briefings last summer that it had information indicating that Russia was working to help elect Donald Trump president, a finding that did not emerge publicly until after Mr. Trump's victory months later, former government officials say. The briefings indicate that intelligence officials had evidence of Russia's intentions to help Mr. Trump much earlier in the presidential campaign than previously thought. The briefings also reveal a critical split last summer between the CIA and counterparts at the FBI, where a number of senior officials continued to believe through last fall that Russia's cyber attacks were aimed primarily at disrupting America's political system and not at getting Mr. Trump elected, according to the interviews. A fine distinction, but a distinction nonetheless. The former officials said that in late August, 10 weeks before the election, John O. Brennan, then CIA director, was so concerned about increasing evidence of Russia's election meddling that he began a series of urgent individual briefings for 8 top members of Congress, some of them on secure phone lines, while they were on their summer break. It is unclear what new intelligence might have prompted the classified briefings, but with concerns growing both internally and publicly at the time about significant Russian breach of the DNC, the CIA began seeing signs of possible connections to the Trump campaign, the official said. By the campaign's final weeks, Congress and the intelligence agencies were racing to understand the scope of the Russia threat. In an August 25th briefing for Harry Reid, then the top Democrat in the Senate, Mr. Brennan, indicated that Russia's hackings appeared aimed at helping Mr. Trump win the November election, according to two former officials with knowledge of the briefing, which explains a lot of Harry Reid's indignance toward the end of the election and then afterward as well with James Comey, right? The officials said Mr. Brennan also indicated that unnamed advisors to Trump might be working with the Russians to interfere in the election. The FBI and two congressional committees are now investigating that claim, sort of, focusing on possible communications and financial dealings between Russian affiliates and a handful of former advisors to Trump. So far, no proof of collusion has emerged publicly. We know this. Mr. Trump has rejected any suggestion of a Russian connection as ridiculous and fake news. The White House also sought to redirect the focus from the investigation and toward what Trump has said with no evidence was President Barack Obama's wiretapping of phones in Trump Tower during the presidential campaign. CIA and FBI declined to comment for this particular article, as did Brennan and senior lawmakers who were part of the summer briefings. In the August briefing for Mr. Reid, two former officials said Mr. Brennan indicated that the CIA focused on foreign intelligence was limited in its legal ability to investigate possible connections to Trump. The officials said Brennan told Reid that the FBI, in charge of domestic intelligence, would have to lead the way on that. Days later, Reid wrote to Comey. Without mentioning the CIA briefing, Reid told Comey that he had recently become concerned that Russia's interference was more extensive than widely known. That at least now explains that particular chapter. There is, of course, much more, which we will not likely be able to get to today, but just sort of wanted to put that out there to connect, still somewhat unconnected dots and figure out exactly why it was. So we figured this was probably the reason that Harry Reid would have gone that direction and made those comments, but now at least we know that for sure, and we have an article that we can point to as proof as we try and connect our own dots and build our own story and keep up with the ever-evolving narrative of the Russia connection, which has now since spread to where? Yeah, Austria. There's a piece of it in Spain. There's little bits of it here and there all over the place. Amazing story, spreading like a virus. And it's all we can do to try to keep up with things. Okay, and as a matter of fact, we know we can't keep up with everything, but luckily we have the guys in the after show who will keep you up to date on the day's breaking news that we might have missed while I frittered things away with Armando. Thanks very much for helping me through the first program back from the break, Armando. What about the Red Sky at Morning Tuesday edition of the after show? A federal court, again, tells Texas their voter ID law is racist. A big, big decision that got a lot of plaudits yesterday. Minnesota Republicans accuse House Minority Leader Melissa Hortman of racism for get this, racism. Why? For criticizing the all-white male card game the Republicans conduct during floor speeches. Yes, they did not want to listen to the first, what was it, Somali American woman legislator elected anywhere in the United States. Didn't want to listen to any of the women who were speaking, and yet she interrupted and said, "I hate to break up your all-white male card game." They figure that as racism. By the way, was she wrong? Was it not all white males? Not really sure about that. What else? Jeff Sessions took the administration's war on science to the next level by discontinuing the commission tasked with raising standards for the use of forensic evidence in criminal proceedings. How about the last half? Chris Reeves, a.k.a. Tom Servo 433, reports on Ted Cruz rallying the troops leading into special elections in Kansas. A little bit more.
From Daily Kos Radio on networksradio.com. You have been listening to the Kagro in the Morning Show
with David Waldman.
Do stay tuned then for the after show. They'll be discussing this too. Voting sites for that special election have been conveniently changed. Also, Georgia has an important special election next week, and the statistics that Chris Kobach and the Trump administration used to prove non-citizens have illegally voted, based on as few as 14 people. Stay tuned for the full story next.